Well, today I'm going to highlight to you some of the new changes in Dynamics 365 Business Central, or BC as I call it, for the Wave 2 2022 update. It has been slightly delayed, the rollout, and I think it's restarting again on Monday next week. But if you want to, this is where I'll just show you very quickly where you can go and check when your system will be updating. So if we go into Business Central, what you would need to do is click on the Settings button, go to Admin Center, and please note that this is for those of you who do have access to Admin Center. If not, find someone in your organization who does, and they'll be able to check for you. So once you've clicked on Admin Center, it will open up the BC admin page, and you can then check what version you're actually on, which ones are available. So if I click on my environment, which is Lyn Smith demo, I can come down here and I can see that mine will be, or my update is going to be scheduled for October the 24th, 2022. And this is where if I want to change it, I can click on modify and set when I want my update to actually happen. I do recommend you do it at a weekend. And again, I do recommend that you update your sandboxes first, go into there, test them, make sure it's all okay before you update your live environment. So that's just for those of you who weren't sure how to check, that's how you would actually check. So let's go back and have a look at what we're going to be looking at today. So these are some of the areas or options that I have decided to highlight to you today. There are more, and again, I will show you how to go and have a look and see what is now available for you in this new update. So let me just quickly go back into Business Central and show you. Again, you just click on the question mark at the top there. You can go into Help and Support, click on See which capabilities are coming soon. And then please look for the Dynamics 365 2022 Release Wave 2. They have changed this around a bit, so just make sure you are clicking on the right option. Then go into SMB, into Dynamics BC, and what's new and planned. So these are the options that they have showcased that are coming out. They did make some changes, so I did have a couple of options on our original email, which we've had to drop because they haven't been released. I know this was one of them, and you can see it hasn't been released as yet. It's only going to come out in November. But again, don't forget, if you want to look at something, you can just click on the menu or the option, and it will just tell you about what's actually going to happen. So that's how you will find out what's coming soon. The other thing that they have done as well in the new version is they've changed the ribbon menu. So I will also quickly highlight that for you and show you the changes there before we go into our first option. So let's go back to BC and have a look. If I go back to my current version, which is my version 20, this is my sales order screen. And what you'll notice at the top here, we've got new, manage, report, order, all those different options. Now in the new version, if I go into my sales orders, I'll just get rid of, let me just get rid of the help there. What you'll notice is it's now changed. So we've got manage, home, release, and we've got these little drop downs as well. So if we go back into the past, we've always had an option here, new, manage, report, order, all those type of things. Like navigate was a really big one they brought in. You'll now notice that's gone. So if I click on home, you get to your two options. And again, you can now pin or unpin that action by as you see fit. If I click on order, that will come up. Now I'm on the top sales order here. If I click on the word release, you'll notice it's actually covering not only the word release, but the drop-down menu. And again, I can just click on release and it will actually do it. You could drop down and go release or reopen, but they've got this menu now where you just click on that first option. The same with post. Instead of having to do a drop down or actions or whatever it was in the past, I think in the past it was posting, post send, post batch review. They've changed it. And if I just click on post, it will go ahead and post that document, but I still got the options to come in through post, post send, post batch, and preview posting. So just be aware of that. And again, in here, we've got documents, and they've got this little section now called other. So on some of the drop downs, you'll have other, and it will bring out like shipments and invoices. They seem to have got rid of the word process and navigate, and they've tried to streamline so that you haven't got an option appearing under 6 different options. They've tried to say, well, if you want prices, just go to the prices section, not go to 3 different places to find it. So that's going to be one of the big changes, is the way they've structured or changed the header ribbon. It doesn't seem like they've changed it at the line level. That still seems to be pretty much the same. They haven't changed that there, but you will notice up here, like home, prepare. These are the ones that they have literally streamlined. So just be aware of that. Right, so let's go in and we'll look at the first one on our agenda, which is financial reporting replaces account schedules. So before everyone says, oh no, does this mean I'm going to have to go and change everything? No, it doesn't. So what they've done is they have just renamed account schedules to financial reporting. So a financial report, and you'll notice on the menu, same position, hasn't changed. They've just renamed it from account schedules to financial reporting. So, and as you'll notice, and I'll go through this and show you, the financial report is now made up of a row definition, a column definition, obviously the name of the report, plus your parameters or filters. So what used to be referred to as an account schedule, which was where all your rows were, they have now made that into something called a row definition. And the column layout is now column definition. Let's go and have a look. So again, come into here. You'll notice if I just go back to my old system, finance account schedules, and if I click on there, this is what you have in the past. We have all these, and we just had the column layout. If I go to the new version, you'll notice financial reporting has replaced account schedules. Everything is still the same. Okay, it's the same functionality. You don't have to change anything, but as a recommendation, I would suggest that you check your reports to ensure that they are correct, and also to see what any changes have been made. So everything that I had under my row definition, so if I come in and have a look at revenue, this would be what I would have normally set up. So I would have come in and under account schedules and started creating all my rows. Those have now been saved as a row definition. So if I come into here and do row definition, this is what we used to get under account schedules. The nice thing is, if you've in the past, every time you wanted to create an account schedule, you had to keep creating the rows. Now you don't. You can set up, so if you want to use this time and time again, you can. So you can use that row definition now more than once, as you can see here, rather than having to go in and keep recreating those rows. Column definitions, that has not changed at all. So in here, I can go in and edit my financial report. My dimensions, all these are still there. Those have not changed. And the options here, again, the only different thing that has changed is you've now got this one report, which I've called revenue, but I can change my row definition and call up my data for my income statement and put that into there. So the report is still revenue, but I've just got a different set of rows now, and my column is still the same, and I can change it if I want to. Still got all the same parameters up here, or filters, view by, date filter. Nothing in there has changed. And then you can run it. It's still got all the drill down capabilities. But again, just go and double check. And when it comes out, just familiarize yourself with that. So that's the new account schedules, which is now being called financial reporting. The next one is using multiple remit-to addresses for vendors. So you're kind of going, I have a purchase invoice which I need to send out, but instead of sending it out to my normal billing address, I may need to send it out to somewhere else, such as a head office. So you'll notice now under related vendor remittance addresses, you've still got your standard order addresses, and you've now got your remittance addresses as well. And in here, you can have multiple remit addresses. And then when you come to your purchase invoice, you've got this new remit-to code. So if I go and have a look under my vendors, I go into Fabricam, and I just need to come into related vendor remit addresses. And this is where I can then set up as many different remittance addresses as I want to. So this is really great, as I say, if you have a head office and you want to send to them. If I then go and have a look at my purchase invoice, and let's have a look at Fabricam here, I can come in, and what happens is this new remit-to is sitting under the shipping and payment tab, and there I can click and use that. The only thing this does mean is that if I do want to have different layouts for my vendor, like a remit-to address or just the normal address, you would most probably have to come in under the vendor or under documents. Where are we? Sorry. So they've moved things again. So that's something we're going to have to get used to, is going and finding where they've put everything again. In here, I can say, right, my vendor remittance, I can have the different layouts. Obviously, one with the head office address or a specific remit-to address, or we can just use the standard layout with the normal address that we would use when we do the billing side of it. So just be aware that if you are going to use this functionality, you may have to have different layouts. It all depends on where you're going to send the remittance to. You've also got your pay to vendor as well. Now, in the notes, it does say that this also does appear on the purchase orders. But what I need to show you is if I come back into my purchase orders and actually have a look here, and again, it tells me that it's down here in my shipping and payment section. I cannot find that remit-to code. So at this stage, it seems like it's only available on the purchase invoice. So yes, you can raise your purchase order. You've got your normal shipping, you've got your normal pay to. But if you want to remit to somewhere else, then you can at this stage only change it on the purchase invoice. However, the documentation does say the PO. I just can't find it at this particular point in time. So that's that option of having multiple remit-to addresses, if that is something that you're interested in. The next one that I looked at was the post item charges at each step of the process. So for some suppliers, they will be charging you freight, in which case on my purchase order, again, I've placed a purchase order on Fabricam. I've got my 2 lines. They're going to be charging me a delivery fee or a freight charge. I will add that onto the PO. Okay, this is different to a third party charging you freight. This is when the supplier or the vendor charges you freight. Now, the big question in the past has been, well, what happens when you get a partial receipt? So the supplier or vendor only delivers half the goods or some of the goods, and you only want to take up the freight in relation to what has been delivered. And then you want to take up the remainder when the balance has actually been delivered. How do we allocate that freight charge? So what we do now is on the item charge line, so you can see here we've got 1, 10, and 1. What they've introduced is on the item charge, there's a new field called quantity to handle, which basically is saying that for this particular invoice, only take up this amount of the freight charge. The balance will be taken up when the remainder is actually done. So let's go and have a look at that particular one. So let's go into my purchase order. what you'll notice is, let me just get rid of most of my information there. So there's my desk, there's my chairs. So I've got 1 and 10, and then I've got my freight charge. So at this particular point, 1 and 10, I've come in here and saying, well, only the chairs have been delivered. And obviously I want to do some of the freight. Now in the past, that whole $100 would have gone off against the particular item, which in this case is the chairs. So all we do now is we would come in, we go into, make sure your cursor is on the item charge line. And if it's on another line, if I move it to there, what you'll notice is the item charge is grayed out. I can only access it from the item charge line. I'll go into there, item charge assignment. I will obviously come in and say, well, split it out, split it equally by amount, by weight, or by volume. In this case, I'm going to do it by amount. And then, as I said, there is this new field here called quantity to handle. So it's taken my $100 and split it out by amount. And I can now come in and say, well, the desk hasn't arrived yet for this particular invoice or receipt that I'm doing. Remove that and close that out. So what you'll notice if I come over to my item quantity to handle, it said, well, only pick up 0.65786, which if I go back into the line, and I'll just show you the value. So at this particular point, we're only going to be consuming the $65.79. We're not picking up the $34. We're only picking up the $65.79. And then from there, I can go ahead and actually process my purchase order and then have that freight allocated to the chairs. And then when the desk comes in, I can go through the same process and we'll take up the balance against the desk. So that's what they've done in relation to item charges, just allowing you to be more flexible in how you allocate that cost out. The next one that we want to look at is they've given you a new option here, find posted and non-posted document lines in the search. So sometimes you're kind of going, well, what items put it this way, which customers have bought a specific line, or which customers have bought what lines. You may want to go and search them. So again, to go and get that information, you would have to do quite a bit of digging to get that out. But now they've given us this option, so let's go and have a look and see what it actually delivers. If I go back into my existing system, my current version, if I go in and I look at post sales invoices, you'll notice we've just got posted sales invoices. In the new version, if I do the same thing, and if I come up here and I go posted sale invoices, remember you don't have to type the whole thing. You now get invoices and you get invoices lines. So if I click onto there, what it's doing now is giving me all the lines from every single posted sales invoice that has been around. So if I want to say, well, who have I sold the Amsterdam lamp to? Very quickly, I can filter to this value because my line was highlighted and it's saying, right, so this particular lamp looks like it's had a few different version name changes. This is who I've actually sold it to. Again, instead of doing the filtering that way, you can also come in there and saying, right, how many have I actually sold to Trade Research? And it can filter out. You've also got the option as well to open in Excel. I mean, you can do pivot tables, you can do anything along those lines. I think what is really useful is sometimes you may have an issue with a particular item and you need to know, hang on, who's not only who has bought that in the past, but who is actually going to be buying it. And there should be in here something called sales lines. Yep, there it is, sales lines. So we've still got the posted invoice lines, but up here I've got the open ones. And what this is telling me, again, if I look at this particular Berlin chair, let me just go in and filter to this value. In fact, let me just clear that one and let me pick another one again. Let's take the swivel chair. This might be giving me the one I want. Yeah. So let's just say I've got an issue on delivery or there's batch issues with it, and I'm going, all right, I can see who I've sold it to by looking through the posted sales invoice lines, but who am I about to sell it to? So you could go and call up the inventory card, go and click on sales orders, and it will give you the list. This way it's going to be so much quicker for you. I can see I've got one here that's actually on an unposted sales invoice, but I've also got one here on an actual order. So at this particular point in time, I can actually open that document, contact the customer, and advise them that there is an issue or it's going to be delayed. Maybe there's been a delay in my shipment and I need to go back and advise my customers on that particular product. So I think that is something that is really useful, and I think I know I'll certainly be using it quite a bit. So let's just go back and see what they've done. So this option is available for purchase lines, purchase receipts, credit memos, posted sales invoices, the sales shipments, and the sales credit memo lines. And again, it's also on the purchase lines, sales lines. So again, while we were looking to see who is going to be buying a certain product, well, which ones, and we can check then when they're actually coming in, like how many orders have I got out there for a particular product item. So again, we can look at it that way. And again, if you are using a premium license as opposed to the essential license and therefore got access to production and manufacturing, you will now have the same features under the production order consumption lines. So I think that's going to be a very useful tool that they've provided in the latest version. Next one from here is making the entry of variant codes mandatory. Now, some of you will be using variants, especially if you're selling different sizes or different colors. And in the past, in the current version, there's nothing forcing you to actually put in a variant code. So accidentally sales orders can go out without variants, purchase orders can go out without variants. So what they've done is under the inventory setup, there's this button now, which is if you've got variants, do you want to make sure that that field is now mandatory? In which case, yes. And again, they've also followed that through and put it on the item card to say, do you or don't you want these variant codes to be mandatory per product? And then what that does now is on the actual sales order, you'll now have it coming up as a mandatory field. So let me go back into Business Central, come in and have a look at an item. And let's go and have a look. So yes, I've turned that feature on and under inventory setup. In fact, I'll just, while I wait for that, I will go and look for the inventory setup page. There is the actual, again, just make sure that that field is on the form. And again, just turn it on or off. And then what will happen is on all your items, I set one up, I believe. Oh no, hang on, that's not the one. Let's go and look for SPCM. There it is. So this one will have variants, and again on each field. So it will pick up by default. As soon as you turn that feature on, this field here will be set to default, yes. But again, there may be certain items that have variants, but you don't want the variant field to be mandatory, in which case you can actually set that to no. Not sure why they've done that, because if you've got variants, you want to use it, but there are possibly options where you may not want to, on the variant, actually make it a mandatory field. So again, this will appear on the item card. And then if we go and have a look at our sales orders, and I go into one here, you'll now notice in here that the red star has appeared, which basically is telling me this is a mandatory field. And then if I want to post it, and I'll go ahead, because I have that feature turned on, it's now saying no, the variant code must have a value before you can post it. So it's now going to stop us from posting through. So for those of you who are using variants, I think some of you will be quite pleased that that is now a new feature. So one of the last ones I wanted to look at is tracking items that are used in projects, including the picks as well. So what they've now allowed us to do, so this is for people who are using projects or jobs in Business Central, is when you get to the planning lines, it allows you to predefine any lot or serial or package items. But again, it's only available for budget or budget and billable. The other option is billable, and it's not available on that. But to use this, you do need to turn on in the feature management page the option here called Enable Inventory and Warehouse Pick from Jobs. And what I did pick up when I was actually testing this out, you also have to turn on this thing called Lot Warehouse Tracking. So what this is allowing us to do is when we go to our jobs and we get down to the lines, we can actually preset the lot numbers or serial numbers depending on what you're using. And again, when you're creating your inventory picks, it's coming up there by default. Let's just go and have a look at all of that. So there is something here, and I know a lot of people may not be aware or use feature management. So if you look at feature management, these are some of the options that you can turn on and off. And again, it will tell you when they will be released or supposed to be released. And in some cases for me, I'm just trying to find the one where I had put it in. There it is. And all you will do is you'll actually come into a field and you will actually just choose all users, and that is how it will become enabled. And again, you do have the ability to click here on Learn More. So have a look at some of these. Again, if you're not sure what they're doing, please go and do this in your sandbox environment first. Make sure you're comfortable with it before you actually turn on it in your live system. So I've turned that on. And then also with item tracking in here, this is something that people may or may not be aware of on our item tracking codes. So in here, I've got lot all, and under edit, this is the button that you will need to turn on. Now, it was turned off on my demo system to start with. And then when I tried to do my pick slips, the lot numbers, serial numbers were not showing. The only thing is you need to turn this on. Otherwise, it won't work. And again, if you've got transactions open, it's not going to do it. So what I had to do was I had to go into my item. I quickly changed it to lot all, came back, turned this feature on, and then went back to my item and chose the lot all option. Let's go and have a look what this all means. So here's my jobs. I've just set up a very, very simple job in here with a one line. I come in, I look at my job planning. And what it says for these particular items, I've just got it in here twice because I've just been playing around. I have the ability at this particular point when I'm setting up a job to say, on this job, I need to use this batch, or possibly I may need to use this serial number. And this is really important if you're buying specific materials for a job and you want to allocate a certain batch or serial number, you can do it in here. So here I have actually allocated the job to there. And then when I come out, what we would be doing is we create our inventory picks. Also, there's nothing to be created, but when it's been done, I will come in and look at my put away pick lines. Here I've created my pick card or my inventory pick. And here you can see by default, it's already pre-selected this for me. So that's something if for those of you who are in jobs and need to predetermine stuff, you can do this. You do have the ability as well, if I had more than one lot number, to actually come and change it, but it's just saving time at this particular point, and I'm just directing the staff where to go and which items to pick. Again, it could be a hindrance, but it could also be useful and save you time. So that's just some of the new features coming out in the update. Hopefully some of them are of interest to you. I think the main big one is possibly, and I'm just going to go back some slides quickly, is this financial reporting. I think everyone does use that. So that is a really big one to have a look at and play with. For those of you doing freight, where your suppliers charge you freight, I think that will be a good one. Find the posted and non-posted lines and the variance. So I'm hoping that for some of you, you'll be able to turn on these new features.